Welcome to Delfshaven, a borough of Rotterdam with roughly 80,000 inhabitants who have migrated here from all over the world. At 70% of its population, Delfshaven has an astronomical amount of inhabitants from a migratory background, triple that of the Dutch average of 24%. This formerly problematic neighborhood is currently flourishing into a multicultural hub where people from all backgrounds could come together. When we zoom in further, we come to Medi, designed and built by Geurst Schulze from 2004 until 2008. In their own words, the building was influenced by North African, Arabic and Andalusian architecture to create an intermediary between Dutch and Mediterranean culture, to create an inclusive community consisting of 93 ground-bound housing units that are interconnected by a series of courtyards. To better understand the process that has led to the design of Medi, we have reconstructed the steps most likely taken by the architects. First, we take the edge of the roads and extrude it to create the sidewalk surrounding the plot. Then we extrude the plot itself, showing us the odd angles they had to work with. This base shape can be divided into 3 different blocks, based on the same angle as the streets flanking Medi on the east side and on the west side. The middle block is cut through to form a square in the center of the complex. This square connects the 4 streets, making the whole assembly more coherent. Subsequently, a monumental axis cuts through the front of the block from the center of the square, indenting the block it cuts through to force the attention to it. All blocks are given their own courtyards, intended to be more private than a communal square. Height differences are created to focus the attention to different parts of the complex. Later, these will be added to by the residents themselves. The axis through the east block is turned into a gate, as are all ends of the streets, creating a city wall enclosing the complex. A pergola and an arcade, as well as a ziggurat-shaped fountain and a straight water line through the axis are added, creating a lively and warm feeling in the square. The architects credit the Alhambra as an inspiration. Lastly, the brick facades of the inner streets are painted in vivid colors, as can be found in many Mediterranean cities. Like an ancient Mediterranean city, Medi is closed off and protected by its contemporary integrated city wall. It's a physical barrier that closes off the interior world from the exterior one. When you walk around the complex, you find that the wall is a perfect blend of different cultures and architectural styles. It has integrated a style and material similar to that of the surrounding blocks, yet at the same time it is distinguished from them. In height, for example, it is mostly similar, yet it juts out above or dips down below the neighbors when appropriate. But most distinctly, it happens in the detailing of the brick patterns. When compared to the blocks around it, the same type of brick is used, yet the patterns change when moving around the facade. 3 distinct patterns can be recognized in parts of the facade, and all 3 mostly correspond to different functions in the facade. First off, we have the regular stretcher bond that is seen everywhere else in the neighborhood. It covers all parts where nothing out of the ordinary happens. Second, we have the scattered pattern that is a reverse of the scattered holes that are present in traditional Mediterranean city walls. And third, we have a crossing pattern that refers to patterns and ornaments found in the Mediterranean area. These 3 patterns have been recreated in concrete to see if they still have their visual quality, after losing their material quality and when taken out of the collage of the city wall. Looking at the stretcher bond, it has lost all meaning the moment it was taken out. It could be part of any other Dutch brick building, which means that its use as a bridging pattern between the context and the building has worked. Second, we look at the scattered pattern. When looking at it, you're unsure whether it is a traditional facade that has somehow been built wrong, or whether it is supposed to be something else entirely. Its randomly jutting out bricks have a more visceral and natural feeling to them. Lastly, the crossing pattern found on the gates and the corners, pulling even more attention towards these elements. It obviously is not a part that traditionally fits the context, as it feels very foreign to look at. The pattern has a distinct North African and Arabic look to it. If the entire building consisted of this, it would not look good next to its neighbors. Medi could, quite literally, be seen as a hidden gem. From the outside, it is a similar brownish hue and material as its context, yet its interiors are quite the opposite. Every way into the complex opens into a vibrant and otherworldly or Mediterranean space. Whether you enter through the main blue and red gates, or through the vibrant streets, all roads lead to the bright and lively square. Outlined by the arcade or pergola, it is easy to forget you're in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, when you step into the building. From the sober and empty street, you suddenly enter into an explosion of energy. The space seems designed for a warmer climate. Kids are playing everywhere, people are meeting and greeting each other, and you are welcome. The interior streets in Medi are characterized by their vibrant, multicolored brick facades. Our model investigates the three distinct separate streets and their color schemes: blue-yellow, orange-brown, and red-orange. When looked at from the top, one can see these color schemes have been oriented towards the magnetic north, specifically moving from cold colors in the north towards warm colors in the south, where the sun shines brightest. When approached from the outside, Medi shelters its inhabitants with its city wall-like outer shell. It then opens up through the gates, creating a gradient from public and open to private and closed. The transition from public street to the private facade is made quite subtly with a strip, barely a meter wide, where inhabitants place their own benches, plants, and other items. This way, the inhabitants appropriate a small bit of public space for themselves. This phenomenon is repeated on the inside, where people claim parts of the collective space by placing furniture. Within Medi, one finds quite a complex gradient from public to private. In the model, it is seen as a color gradient, from the blue public space to the bright red privacy. As we see, there are more levels to the transition from public to private than the gates alone. When we move from the public street to the communal square and streets to the private secondary layer of courtyards, we notice they were at first hidden from view entirely. This gradient allows the inhabitants to completely be themselves in their own private courtyards, where others won't bother them. When we slide open the model, we see that the same gradient is again present inside the houses, ranging from the communal dark blue encapsulated parking garage up into the kitchen, then the living room, and finally the bright red bedrooms, hidden all the way at the top, the farthest possible distance from the entrance. Delfshaven is one of the most culturally diverse neighborhoods in the Netherlands. Over the years, the number of inhabitants from a migratory background has risen to 70%, which is almost thrice the national average of 24%. These people have backgrounds from all over the world, as seen overlaid according to their current presence as a percentage of the population of Delfshaven. This incredible diversity has led to an active and colorful cityscape. Geurst and Schulze have taken this diversity as a precedent, attempting to create a place for cultural mixing in Medi. The architecture of Medi very clearly has been inspired by different cultures and places, from the traditional Dutch hofje typology to Portuguese framing, Mediterranean arches, colorfully painted brick facades, and more. Geurst and Schulze refer to the project as an intermediary between Dutch and Mediterranean architecture. It is influenced by Arabic, North African, and Andalusian culture. When visiting the project, one finds a myriad of double flags behind the windows, from Turkish Dutch to Brazilian English, attesting to Medi's success as a multicultural hotspot. In the model, we tried to convey the feeling present during our first visit to Medi. The central square has become a place for everyone and anyone to meet. People from all ethnicities seemed welcome and focused on interacting with each other. We tried to show this in the model by making a still life interpretation of that feeling. People are indiscriminately painted in different colors, not to show specific origins, but diversity as a whole. They have been painted in the same color scheme as the gradients present in earlier models to represent the connection between the people rather than their difference. In Medi, we have found a contemporary attempt at closing the gaps between the different cultures present in Delfshaven, Rotterdam, and even the Netherlands as a whole. Geurst and Schulze have created an opportunity for integration and inclusivity, a place that feels at once natural in its Dutch context, yet distinctly Mediterranean upon entry. In essence, a colorful contemporary reimagining of the typology of het Hofje.